Thank you again to our presenters for the excellent presentations. We will now begin our question and answer panel with today's presenters. We'll answer as many questions as time allows. Please also join me in welcoming Kristie Laurvick, Senior Regulatory Engagement Manager in the U.S. Government and Regulatory Affairs at USP, to our Q&A panel. Now, our first question is for Pallavi. When is it mandatory to comply with USP standards?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the question. So it is mandatory to comply with the USP-NF standards when there is a monograph, and you have to comply with any referenced general chapter in that monograph, or also standards that are applicable to all monographs which are mentioned in general notices. One key point is, while you may your application may have been submitted to FDA, there may not be a monograph, but there could be a monograph anytime during the life cycle of your product. So it's very important that you follow the Pharmacopeia forum proposals and comment as needed, and remain compliant throughout your life cycle with any USP monograph and related requirements. Thank you.
Thank you for that response. My next question is for Matthew. How is USP harmonized with other pharmacopeias or ICH?
Actually, we get that question quite a bit, especially when we're talking with industry partners. We work through a couple different processes. One is called the PDG process, Pharmacopeia Discussion Group, that's trying to harmonize what is existing standards, and that is a more formal type process that's there. But when we're talking about in terms of the monograph development of small molecules and new standards, we have what is called prospective harmonization, and it's been around for a bit. But really, the connection between USP and other pharmacopeias, especially EP, BP, and others, where we're working on trying to come out of the gate with a harmonized drug substance or drug product monograph. So we work in close connection with our other pharmacopeia partners across the globe to be able to try to do that. And if you're working early enough in that process, and you'd like to kind of explore what that would look like, then we would want to, have that conversation with you and see if this is something that would be a good candidate to try to have something that comes out of the gate harmonized. Because we also believe that if we have more pharmacopeias that are aligned, it makes it easier for industry ultimately to comply, not only in the U.S. market, but in different regions around the world.
Thank you. I appreciate that response. Our next question is for Kristie. Are companies allowed to use their own validated methods, or do they have to use the methods in USP monograph standards?
Yeah, thank you for the question. That's a great question. And like Matthew said for the previous, it's one we receive a lot at USP. Of course, the methods we publish in PF that make it into our standards are all validated compendial methods. They are high quality methods, but we understand that companies often have a need or a desire to use alternative methods. One of the things I would encourage everyone to do as they become users of USP-NF is to become familiar with our general notices. General notices describe the use and interpretation of the compendium and its tests, and part of our general notices actually address non-compendial or alternative methods. There are situations or conditions under which users can develop or adapt and use their own methods instead of the compendial method. However, it must be a validated technique, and you must be very careful to understand that the compendial method is actually essentially the referee method if there is any dispute on the results. So I believe this is section 5 in our general notices. There's a lot of good information in that section of the compendium. It sometimes gets overlooked, but it is something that I would always familiarize users to take a look at, to make sure they keep an eye also on changes to general notices, and to just ensure that they understand how to properly use the compendium, the test, and the specifications that we provide.
Wonderful. Thank you for that response. Our next question is for Scott. What function or group within a company or manufacturer should monitor USP monographs for updates? How can manufacturers collaborate with USP to make this a seamless process?
That's a great question, and there's a couple of different answers to it. When we speak to our member companies about this, there's a number of names for the groups or departments that are working on this. Sometimes companies have a dedicated and centralized function, like they may have a compendial affairs group or compendial liaisons. Some companies have this function situated within a quality assurance team. I've heard the title chemistry and compendia used before. Sometimes it's an all hands on board approach with a variety of personnel that are following the USP updates. In these cases, they have people from different groups are communicating directly with USP, and they're sort of working on their own to directly resolve these issues. Other times they may have staff come across and form, what they call maybe like a USP committee within their group. And if you have the luxury to do that, that's a great approach to it. All that said, there is no right answer to it. It's going to depend on the needs of your organization and what the pros and cons of each of those situations are. If you are in sort of a resource-strapped area, I'd say there's a couple of great ways to stay plugged in if you're sort of working on your own. USP has a compendial updates email service that will give you everything that you're going to need. I think that Matt covered in his presentation a lot of the things that I went over as well. And the second area that you can make a big impact or get a lot of value of is participating in some of those industry trade organizations or associations. You're going to learn a lot from your peers there, and it'll be a great sounding board for you as well. Thanks.
Yeah, and Scott, if I could just add to that, I mean, we work with companies all the time, and this is what we do with them. So please contact us if you have these kinds of questions and you're not sure where to go. Just contact us at donations, because we do get that. We see companies that maybe they've never commented, or they've never done a monograph development, or they've never done this before and they're apprehensive. We're here to help you move that process along.
Great. Thank you so much for the response from both of you there. We have another question for Pallavi. Do I have to update my specifications and methods to align with USP revisions, or can I maintain my currently approved specifications until a notifiable change is made to my process?
Thank you again for that question. So you have to keep in mind what are the mandatory requirements, and it's your responsibility to comply with them. And the best way to do so, as mentioned previously, is to follow the proposals and comment in time. So there are options for you to use alternate methods, and also identity is a mandatory requirement around which there is no flexibility. But if there are some other tests in which you differ from the USP, you may use a labeling statement for saying that your test differs from USP, or you can work with USP to have your specification considered as part of the monograph. So either of those have to be done. And you may, as explained by Kristie, you can have an alternate method as long as you have compared it using the 1225 general chapter. You have compared your method with the compendial method. You may use your own method for routine purposes. But the requirement is if throughout the life cycle, if there is a monograph, you are expected to meet it if tested according to the monograph method. Thank you.
Thank you for that response. I think we have time for one more question. I'll direct this to you, Matthew. How can I get involved with USP's standard setting work, such as monograph support or expert committees, and so on and so forth?
I mean, I think there's a lot of points of contact at USP. One, if you have a relationship with USP, utilize that. If you don't know where to go, you can start with my team. We have a global team to get you connected to the right people. And again, having that relationship is just, I feel is extremely important, because even, Scott's slide showing the commentary, and you may have seen that commentary, you might know that is your comment, and not knowing like, okay, well, what was the decision? How did that arrive? Or how did that go about? Or what's going to be my next steps as a company? That's where you really can just really start with us and work with us, so that you're having that information sharing all along that pathway is just extremely important to work with us and work with USP to make sure we get those specs, we get those methods, and that we have that robust public standard that's coming at the end of the line. And then, it'll be appropriate for whatever that time period is. And then when you see that that's necessary to revise, please work with us as well for that.
Excellent. Thank you for that response. That looks like that is all the questions that we have time for today. So again, thank you to our presenters for the excellent information. If you have any additional questions or comments, please feel free to send those to CDER SBIA at fda.hhs.gov, as you can see on the screen there. Also, while you're there, please feel free to also check out our other SBIA resources found on our webpage, www.fda.gov/CDER SBIA. And then a few final reminders as we close out for today. Again, those recordings will be posted within 10 or more business days to our webpage that you can see on the screen there. Recipients today will receive a thank you email sent post-webinar within the next business day here. And again, those certificates of attendance are available for 2 weeks upon request. Thank you again to everyone who participated today. This concludes our webinar session, and we hope that you have a good rest of your day.